All right, hi class. Michael and Alina here. We are working on a project for vocational guidance for the chronically mentally ill. We will be discussing our handout here as we walk through the whole thing together. So I'll start us off with the main issues for the chronically mentally ill. So the severe impairment for the chronically mentally ill impacts their daily lives, and unfortunately, it can be every facet of their lives, whether it's work, school, interpersonal relationships, and just general daily functioning for their lives, can be significantly impacted. And with the difficulty with interpersonal relationships, specifically with coworkers, bosses, friends, or even classmates, other students, whatever it is, it can be difficult because the stigma around mental health, chronic mental health specifically, is pretty harsh. I have a quote here that I'm going to quickly read that kind of helps frame our understanding of the situation for these people. Is People with chronic mental illness are faced with unwanted advice from friends, family, and even strangers about how they can, quote, cure their illness. People believe a positive mentality and healthy well being will cure all mental health conditions. This belief enforces that people who experience mental illnesses are weak or less than. And so you have truly kind hearted people who want to help, yet they have a lack of understanding of this situation. And so that just compounds, the issues that these people have with just being around others and working with them. So yeah, if the chronically mentally ill, their impairment is severe enough, the family is often tasked with taking care of the individual. And so having proper support for individual and family members is a major issue. And I like to think of, if someone has this issue of whether it's schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever, um, they, might be so severe that a single parent was taking care of them, whether it's a mother or father. And because they're spending so much time taking care of the child or young adult or even middle age, um, they can only work a part-time job. And in a city like Portland, that compounds their issues, just economically speaking. So that's a big issue. And then lack of awareness for the specific population. There's an immense amount of knowledge on mental illness, as there's a huge push in society to really tackle mental illness, but not specifically for the chronically mentally ill, in regard to vocations or education, all of those things. So it is still an emerging field of research. There's a lot we still have to learn about the field, about people who are living like this on the day to day. And there's needs to be a lot of headway made on that specific field. So what does the population look like? It truly can be any person of any age who has been diagnosed with chronic mental illness. Um, there are certain demographics and populations that are affected by different mental illnesses, and yet it really can impact anybody. So typically the chronic mental illness is reserved for schizophrenia, spectrum disorder, any bipolar and depressions. Um, and so yeah, the other mental illnesses that include mood disorders, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, psychotic disorders, and trauma related disorders. So it's anything it's truly severe and long lasting, something that's not going to be a week or 2 weeks. I mean, it's months to years of prolonged issues. And unfortunately, substance abuse is often comorbid with the chronic mental illness. We've talked about this a lot in our classes and just in general in the schooling, is that a lot of the time people use substances to self-soothe, to ease the pain, to numb themselves from social issues or just the actual illness itself. And so that can lead to more severe life impairment with the combination of both the actual disorder itself and then the substances compounding those issues. So that's that section.
Yeah, and then as far as what activities are happening in this area, one of the major programs that we found to be really beneficial is occupational therapy. And occupational therapy can really help improve the individual's capabilities and functions of everyday activities. And so this includes things like assistance in gross motor skills and fine motor skills, and just really developing them, and so they can better live their day to day lives. And also, occupational therapy is not aimed at like reducing their symptoms, it's aimed at helping them to just like grow and develop. And then another one is computer cognitive training. This is, or the article that we found is specifically for New York. And so there's not like a lot of information for here in Oregon specifically. But the computer cognitive training enhances cognitive performance in daily functioning. And in this training, they found that there's the greatest improvement seen in verbal episodic memory, which, if you don't know what that means, that is memory of personal events. So they found that this type of training really enhances people's memory in regards to things they have experienced, specifically if they're having an episode of some kind, um, like someone who has schizophrenia, they're able to recall the episode that they're having and what happened and try to work through that. And then something specifically for Oregon is the individual placement and support. And this company assists individuals with health conditions to work at regular jobs of the individual's choosing. So that means they provide mainstream education and technical training specifically for jobs that people actually want. And so they really have a um, kind of like specialized view of helping people with chronic mental illness. And this company really believes that they can have any job that they want despite the disorder that they have. And so, because of that view that they have, they really integrate mental health treatment teams. So, there's a whole group of people that surround each individual to help them along their journey of finding a job and retaining a job. And so, with that, the job support is unique to each individual. And another component of that is that the support continues as long as the individual needs it. So it doesn't stop when the individual gets a job, it continues to help with retention and just continued support. And then IPS also has a zero exclusion policy, which means that they will help anyone. So there's nothing that anybody could come to them with where they would turn them away. And then what do programs that work look like? So there's programs in the state of Oregon that provide services to the community, and there's a few statistics that we found. In Oregon, it estimates in 2020 that 3,184 individuals were helped. And then in 2021, there were 3,343 individuals helped. So in the 1 year, there was only about like a 250 increase in the number of people that were helped. So it's definitely an improvement, but there could be, or I guess the hope would be that those numbers would continue to rise and more people would get assistance. And then another component of what works, or what in programs that work, another component that they have is an integrated model. So that basically means that the individuals are provided support from a social worker, friends, family, and that the program also has continued CBT training for the people that are helping out the individual. So not only is the individual supported by hopefully their friends and family, but there's also professionals who are helping them who are getting continued training. And then proactive approach to training, job search, and job retention. So programs that work well have those things. They're really striving to keep up with the research and really figure out what helps individuals the most in this population. And then, kind of like what was talked about before, there's short-term support in occupational therapy. And then with continued support for this population, the long-term would be a LPC. So someone they continue to see on top of the occupational therapy. And then as far as conclusions and implications for counselors, so just like kind of what we do for any one of our clients, we help individuals build self-efficacy, problem solving, and relaxation skills. So we didn't find that there was anything real specific that would be different to how we would kind of function in the therapy session with someone with chronic mental illness versus someone who doesn't have it, just because those skills are beneficial to everyone. And then another component for counselors to be aware of is providing them with psychoeducation for programs and resources in their community. So it's really important for us as counselors to be aware of the programs and resources in the area so that we can better help and support our clients. Our support is great for them and very beneficial, but adding more support for them would make their success probably even greater. And then some suggestions, more funding. Kind of like what was shared earlier, there's just not a lot of research or awareness in this field. And so providing more funding would allow there to be more research and therefore more education. And then another thing would be greater community knowledge of organizations and programs. Again, like we said, there's just not a lot of awareness of this field. And so making the community more knowledgeable about the struggles that people with chronic mental illness go through, and just being aware of different programs in their area would be beneficial. And then specifically, because this is about vocational resources, it would be helpful for companies and employers to have education on employing individuals with chronic mental illness. So there's a lot of great support for individuals searching out jobs and how they can further be supported along that journey, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of education or resources given to the actual employers who are employing these individuals. And also just another component of that is just sharing with employers and companies that it is doable and beneficial to employ people with chronic mental illness. Like, they can do the job just the same as anybody else. And then these are our references. So yeah, that's our presentation.
That's it. We're good.
Thanks for watching.